It started off like any other quiet Sunday. I was up early, earlier than I needed to be, which was typical for me. I liked the silence in the house before everything started moving. The sun was pouring in through the kitchen blinds, and the smell of fresh coffee was already in the air. I had just gotten back from the grocery store, arms full of eggs, syrup, pancake mix, our usual slow morning routine. I liked doing the little things. Picking out the ripest fruit. Remembering she liked almond milk in her coffee now instead of regular. I don't know. I thought it mattered. The house was still. Peaceful. I had just set the bags on the counter and was sorting through them when I heard it, her phone, ringing from the bedroom. At first, I ignored it. Figured she'd grab it herself. But after the second ring, then a third, I realized she wasn't upstairs. She'd stepped outside earlier, maybe to water the plants. I wasn't sure. It kept going. That's what got me. The persistence of it. Like whoever was calling wasn't the type to let it go to voicemail. I headed upstairs, casual, not in any rush, but something about the tone of that ring, sharp, not one of her usual ones, put me on edge. The phone was face up on the nightstand, vibrating slightly against the wood. I wasn't planning to pick it up. Not really. But I looked at the screen. Yoga, Daniel. I blinked. My wife, Claire, had talked about her yoga classes for months, same studio every week, same instructor, same group of friends. I'd always gotten the impression it was a social circle of women, something supportive and low-key. Not once had she mentioned a Daniel. And why save a guy's contact as Yoga Daniel if there was nothing unusual about him? Something about the way it was labeled felt like camouflage. Still, I hesitated. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe it was nothing. But then I heard the voice in my head, the one that had been whispering to me more and more lately, that low hum of doubt I'd been trying to drown out for months. So I picked it up. Hello? I said, keeping my tone neutral. There was silence on the other end for a second. Then a man's voice, sharp and agitated, cut through. What the hell, Claire? Are you seriously ignoring me again? You said we were doing this today, not next week. I cleared my whole damn Sunday for this, you know. This is total BS. I didn't say anything. I just held the phone there, letting his words hang in the air like smoke. He must have realized it wasn't her on the line, because after a beat, he fell silent. Click. I stared at the screen as the call ended. My stomach sank. And then I heard the door downstairs close. Hey, Claire called out. You home? A moment later, she appeared at the doorway of the bedroom, still in her workout clothes. Leggings, oversized hoodie, messy bun, the usual look when she came back from her sessions. She was holding an iced coffee and had that effortless air about her, like everything was just fine. Then she saw the phone in my hand. Her smile twitched almost imperceptibly. Her eyes flicked from me to the screen and then back. Oh, she said, casually crossing the room and taking it from me. That was just Daniel. He's in my yoga class. Big flirt. Totally harmless. He likes messing around with everyone, jokes like that. You know how it is. She said it with a laugh, light, rehearsed. Like she'd been waiting for this moment. Like she already had the lines memorized. I didn't answer. I didn't even move. I just watched her. She tucked the phone into her pocket like it hadn't just detonated a small bomb between us. You okay? She asked, tilting her head. You look weird. I'm fine, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. She shrugged and moved toward the bathroom. Cool. I'm gonna take a quick shower. Can you put the milk away? And just like that, she was gone, humming to herself, water starting to run in the pipes. I stood there for a long time. And in that silence, something deep inside me shifted. Not because of what she said, but because of how quickly she said it. How practiced it felt. How confident she was that I'd swallow the story and move on like I always had. This wasn't just a random call. It was a confirmation. The kind that doesn't shout but whispers, just loud enough for the part of you that's been quietly watching, quietly waiting to finally speak up. Because this wasn't the first red flag. Not even close. It was just the first one I couldn't pretend not to see. That night, after Claire fell asleep, I stayed downstairs on the couch, staring at the ceiling while the blue light of the muted TV flickered against the walls. I wasn't watching it. I couldn't have told you what was on if you paid me. My mind was elsewhere, looping like a film reel stuck on skip, replaying memories that used to feel harmless but now felt suspicious, like pieces of a puzzle I didn't know I was solving. Funny how hindsight sharpens everything. Suddenly, what I once called quirks or moods became something else. Something darker. The first memory that surfaced was from about 7 months ago. Claire had come home from a weekend spa trip with her coworkers. She was radiant, glowing in a way that felt almost performative. Her skin looked tighter, her lips a little fuller. She laughed a lot that night. Said they'd splurged on facials and fancy treatments. But when I brought it up a week later, casually, without suspicion, she snapped. "Why do you always think something's off when I try to take care of myself?" she asked, eyes hard, mouth tight. I remember backing off. I thought maybe I'd made her feel insecure. Maybe I was overthinking it. But now I remember the bag she came home with, the receipts I never saw. The credit card charges that didn't match what she told me. I brushed it off at the time. She made her own money. What right did I have to question how she spent it? Another night, she left her iPad in the kitchen and I passed by to see a preview of a message flash on screen. Can't stop thinking about last night. No name. Just that one line. The message vanished before I could even blink. I stood there for a second, unsure what I saw. I brought it up gently later that evening. I told her I thought someone had sent her a weird message. She barely reacted. "Must be a wrong number," she said. "You know how spam is these days." And I believed her. Or at least, I pretended to. Because that was the thing about our marriage, I wanted to believe her. I needed to. You don't just unlove someone overnight. Even when the signs are right in front of you. Like the time she went to Denver for a conference. She'd never traveled alone before, not without me or a friend. But she insisted this was an essential opportunity, a rare leadership retreat. She printed out the itinerary. Gave me the hotel info. Checked in regularly, texts, selfies, even a video call from what looked like a fancy suite. I remember she panned the camera around the room and said, "Check it out, it's all on the company dime." I feel like I'm in a movie. But a week later, I found a folded receipt from a steakhouse tucked into a jacket sheet thrown over the arm of the couch. I don't even know why I opened it. It just fell out when I was hanging it up. Dinner for two. 2 cocktails. 1 dessert with a note, "Happy anniversary," even if no one knows it's ours. It was dated the second night of her Denver trip. When I asked her about it again, gently, still trying to give her space to tell me the truth, she laughed. "Oh my God, Tyler," she said, waving me off. "That was for my coworker's engagement. She and her fiancé live in Denver and she asked me to help her surprise him. It was this whole elaborate thing, we even got the restaurant involved. Don't you remember me telling you about that?" She hadn't. I knew she hadn't. But the lie was so smooth, so detailed that I actually felt foolish for doubting her. I remember apologizing. I remember her kissing me and saying, "I love you, but sometimes you really need to trust me more." That one stuck with me. It was the beginning of the guilt narrative, the way she'd twist suspicion into shame. Make me feel like the bad guy for noticing the truth. There were other moments too. Little things. A pair of new shoes in the back of the closet, stilettos way higher than anything she usually wore, tag still on. A second phone charger that I didn't recognize, tucked behind the dresser in the guest room. Her changing passwords for security reasons even though we used to share everything. No warning, no explanation, just suddenly I couldn't log into our shared Netflix or her calendar anymore. When I asked, she told me she had to lock everything down because of work. "Compliance," she said. "It's a nightmare. You wouldn't understand." She was right. I didn't understand. Not then. Then there was the lingerie. The new stuff. High-end designer tags I didn't recognize. I found one set, lace and silk, soft blue, when I was doing laundry. It wasn't something I'd ever seen her wear for me. I asked her about it, trying to sound lighthearted. "New wardrobe I should know about?" She rolled her eyes. "Ty, don't be weird. Can't a woman upgrade her style without it being a thing?" Again, I apologized. Told her I liked the color. She never wore it again. I should have known. I should have asked more questions. Pressed harder. But you don't go into a marriage thinking it's a war. You want to believe the best. Even when it's slipping away right in front of you. The guilt she projected, it worked. Over time, I stopped asking. Stopped wondering. I convinced myself she was tired or that I was the one being needy, insecure, clingy. I took her distance and turned it into a challenge to fix myself. Because that's what you do when you love someone and don't know they're slowly building a world that doesn't include you. Now, hours after the call from Daniel, all those red flags feel like they're screaming. The timeline is unraveling. My memories aren't safe anymore. They're evidence. Every excuse, every laugh, every slight change in tone, it all feels like part of a script. One I never auditioned for but have been living in for years. She's asleep upstairs now. Her breathing is soft, rhythmic, peaceful. I'm sitting here with a glass of water in my hand, knuckles white around the rim, heart numb. It's not just the betrayal that hurts. It's the realization that I've been alone for longer than I thought. And somehow that might be the cruelest part of all. I called in sick Monday morning. Didn't even bother with the fake cough or pretend apology. Just sent an email around 6 a.m. saying I wasn't feeling well and needed the day. Nobody questioned it. I'd built a reputation for being reliable over the years, early deadlines, last-minute favors, always on call. One day off wouldn't raise any red flags. Claire was already up and dressed by the time I came downstairs. She was in her meeting mode, blazer, heels, that specific lipstick she only wore for client-facing days. She gave me a once-over and smirked. "You finally caught that flu going around?" she asked while pouring coffee into her travel mug. "Something like that," I said. She didn't press. Just kissed me on the forehead like I was a child and said she hoped I'd feel better soon. The front door closed behind her with a soft click. And then I moved. Not frantically. Not out of anger. With purpose. I went upstairs to our son's room. He was spending a long weekend with my parents 2 hours away and grabbed the laptop we let him use for school and games. It was old but reliable. More importantly, it was synced with the family cloud, something Claire had insisted on when we got it. I sat on the edge of his bed, logged in, and opened the drive. I didn't know what I was looking for, not exactly. But I had a hunch. The kind that doesn't come from paranoia but from pattern recognition. The kind that feels like walking into a dark room and already knowing where to step because you've been there before, just with your eyes closed. Most of the folders were labeled exactly how you'd expect. Taxes, family trip, photos, 2020. But there was one that caught my eye. It was called Yoga Routines. The name should have made me laugh. Instead, it made my stomach tighten. I opened it. Inside, there were a dozen video files, all labeled with codes, dates, and numbers. At first glance, they looked like standard yoga tutorials, at least based on the thumbnails. But when I hovered over the first one and saw the preview bar scroll, I realized it wasn't yoga at all. It was Claire. Not in a studio. Not in workout gear. She was in a hotel room. The first video showed her sitting on a bed, glass of wine in hand, laughing at someone just off-screen. The camera angle was casual, like whoever was holding it wasn't trying to hide, they were used to filming her. In the next clip, she was wrapped in a hotel robe, hair wet, talking to the camera about how she couldn't believe they got away with it again. I couldn't breathe. I clicked through more, still frames of her smiling, embracing a man whose face was mostly turned away. In one, they were at a rooftop bar. The city lights behind them blurred into color, and they looked like a couple on vacation, not two people sneaking around behind a marriage. I downloaded the files one by one, naming them evidence_1, evidence_2, and so on. I wasn't thinking about what I'd do with them yet. I just knew I needed to have them. Needed something real in my hand because the truth, by itself, felt like it might float away if I didn't anchor it. Then I opened the folder within the folder. Yoga Routines Archive. And that's when I found the photos. Dozens of them. Claire in different hotels with the same man. Different cities, New York, Dallas, Atlanta, everywhere she had ever claimed a business trip. In one, she was kissing him in front of a hotel mirror. In another, she was in lingerie I didn't recognize, lying on her side, looking at him like he was her entire world. I clicked until I couldn't anymore. Then I backed out and checked the metadata. Timestamps, locations, even some geotags left on by accident. They lined up perfectly with every lie she had ever told. The Denver trip. The training in Chicago. The female-only conference in LA. Every single one. I copied everything onto a flash drive I kept in my office drawer, a small, wooden thing I'd carved myself during lockdown as a DIY project. It used to hold anniversary notes from her. Little letters she'd leave me every year, folded and tied with red string. I took those letters out one by one and tucked them into a drawer. Then I slid the flash drive into the wooden box and closed the lid. It felt like sealing a time capsule. A moment of transition. That box, once a gift of love, now held the coldest truth I'd ever encountered. I sat there for a long time. The laptop still open on my lap. The images etched into my mind. Eventually, I walked downstairs and poured myself a drink, even though it was barely past noon. I didn't cry. Didn't rage. The emotion wasn't sharp anymore. It had flattened into something quieter. A kind of resignation. Like finding out a terminal diagnosis you'd always suspected was coming. I knew I couldn't confront her yet. Not without a plan. Not while I was this raw. So I cleaned the kitchen. Made lunch. Answered a few emails from work. I even texted her a meme just to keep things normal. She replied with a laughing emoji and a heart. That night, she came home late. Said her meeting ran long and traffic was a nightmare. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes, and told me she'd K*LL for Thai food. I ordered her favorite. Extra chili, no peanuts. We ate on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, watching a cooking show she liked. She laughed at something dumb the host said and leaned against me. "Glad you're feeling better," she murmured. "Me too," I said. And in that moment, I didn't feel like her husband. I felt like a stranger watching someone perform. A very convincing performance. But I knew the curtain was coming down soon. And when it did, I'd be the one standing in the light. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was anxious, at least not in the way I expected. It wasn't the kind of restless tossing that comes with fear. It was the kind of stillness that happens when your body knows something irreversible has big asterisk N. The kind of silence that isn't waiting for a fight, but for a shift. The storm had already passed. What remained was the weight of everything it destroyed. Claire was sound asleep beside me, her breathing soft, one arm flung across my chest like it had always been. She didn't know that, hours earlier, I'd watched her laugh into another man's neck. That I'd seen her tuck herself into sheets we didn't own in rooms I'd never seen. That I knew how her voice softened when she wasn't talking to me. She didn't know the evidence lived on a flash drive 2 rooms away. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, then got up and made coffee like I always did. That morning, I acted exactly the way I was supposed to. I joked about the weather, asked about her day, made sure she found her keys on the kitchen hook where she always forgot them. I kissed her cheek and told her to drive safe. She smiled, said I was sweet, and left like she hadn't been living 2 lives. Once the door shut, I didn't waste a second. My plan had already taken shape overnight. There would be no screaming match, no dramatic ultimatum. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of knowing I was broken. I was going to end this the same way she had started it, quietly, methodically, and without remorse. The first step was money. We had a shared account, the one we used for bills, groceries, vacations. But I had my own as well, an inheritance account that I rarely touched, separate by design. Over the next few hours, I moved funds around, locked down credit cards, and contacted the bank to set restrictions. Anything with my name attached was secured. Any joint access she had was revoked. I flagged unusual purchases, froze transactions, set alerts for activity. She would still have a card in her wallet, but it wouldn't work the next time she swiped it. Next came the digital locks. I changed passwords, streaming services, shared cloud storage, even the garage door app. Anything tied to my identity was scrubbed. I wiped access to the thermostat she controlled from her phone, the security camera feed she sometimes checked when we traveled, even the calendar invites I used to sync with her schedule. Then came the legal legwork. I'd called a law firm the previous afternoon, right after copying the last file to the flash drive. I didn't know what I'd say at first. How do you start a conversation like that? But the attorney Rena understood before I could even finish the sentence. You're not the first to come to us with this, she said. But you'll be glad you didn't wait until it was too late. We set up an in-person consultation. She walked me through the timeline. Quiet filing. Evidence submission. Financial separation before confrontation. I want this clean, I told her. She nodded. Then don't confront her. Not until the documents are filed. Let us handle the rest. It was surreal, like planning a surgery while the patient was still laughing in the waiting room. But I followed every step. I provided the drive. I signed the forms. I paid the retainer. Within 2 days, the wheels were turning. At home, I played the part. I made dinner, did laundry, answered her questions. She told me about her week, more meetings, another conference in the pipeline, a girls' weekend she was thinking of planning. I smiled through it all. She didn't know that, legally speaking, she was already a ghost in our shared life. Her name was still on the lease. Her clothes still hung in the closet. But behind the scenes, she was being erased, systematically and without noise. I wasn't angry. That surprised me. I expected fury, maybe even a desire to throw it all in her face. But I felt calm, cold even. It wasn't revenge. It was liberation. I watched her move through the house like someone watching the final days of a rental they're about to leave. I noticed the little things she never thought I'd see. The text she tilted away from my view, the quiet smile that wasn't meant for me, the unspoken shift in how she touched me, like it was more habit than want. She didn't suspect anything. That, more than anything, told me I was right to let her lie to herself a little longer. The third night after the call from Daniel, she made us pasta, poured us both wine. She was humming as she stirred the sauce, swaying to a playlist I'd made for her years ago. It was surreal, this performance of normalcy. You seem relaxed, she said, taking her seat across from me. I am, I said, and I meant it. She told me she was thinking of doing another yoga retreat soon, maybe upstate. I could really use the break, she added with a little stretch of her arms. Sounds like a good idea, I said. She smiled, maybe a little surprised at how easy it was, at how I didn't question it. But that smile faded as quickly as it came. Something was starting to unsettle her, even if she couldn't place it. The stillness, the quiet shift in me. She began checking her emails more frequently, scrolling more. I saw her face fall one night when her card got declined at the florist's while trying to order a delivery. I watched her re-enter the numbers, convinced it was a glitch. When it happened again the next day, she cursed under her breath. Then her company email bounced. Then a document she tried to download came back with a permissions error. She tried to reset her password, only to find she couldn't. That was when the fog began to roll in. Around her. Not me. But I said nothing. I still made coffee. Still folded the laundry. Still kissed her cheek when she came in looking tired and distant. One night, she stood by the window and stared out for a long time, her phone clutched tightly in one hand. "Everything okay?" I asked. She didn't answer, just nodded. Later, I heard her in the bathroom, the water running far longer than usual. I waited outside, just to listen. No crying, no sobs, just silence. She came out eventually, wearing the robe I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. Her eyes looked puffy, but her smile was intact. She climbed into bed beside me and rested her head on my shoulder. "Thanks for being patient with me lately," she whispered. I didn't say anything, just placed my hand lightly on her back. Because the collapse had already begun *n. She just hadn't realized yet that it was her world that was falling. It started with a flicker, a dropped call, a missed calendar notification, a password reset that didn't go through. Claire mentioned it offhand the first time, her email app wouldn't sync. I pretended not to hear. The second time, she was annoyed. The third time, she was on the verge of snapping. "Why is nothing working?" she muttered from across the room one morning, her phone in one hand and her laptop open in front of her. "Seriously, it's like someone hacked my life." I didn't look up from my cereal. "Probably a server issue," I said, spooning another bite into my mouth. She clicked furiously. The keyboard clacked in bursts. I watched her out of the corner of my eye, her shoulders hunched, her jaw tight. There was a kind of frantic rhythm to her typing now, like she was trying to outrun something. But it was too late for that. By that point, the legal gears were already grinding in quiet precision behind the scenes. I'd handed everything over, the flash drive, the receipts, the timestamps, the logins. My legal team was surgical. Their words, not mine. "We don't make messes, Mr. Branson. We expose them." Claire had no idea how thoroughly she was being undone. The financial lockdown was just the start. Every shared account was combed through, frozen where necessary, and placed under scrutiny. The car lease? Under my name. The savings account? Legally protected, rerouted, and closed to her. The vacation fund? Transferred. The joint credit cards? Cancelled with a few keystrokes. Notifications sent only to my inbox. Her phone calls started getting longer. Her voice got louder. She called the bank 3 times in one day. I listened from the hallway as she grew more and more frustrated, her tone shifting from confused to accusatory to panicked. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the bank rep said, audibly through the speakerphone. "But the account shows restricted access as of 3 days ago. You'll need to speak to the primary account holder." "I am the primary account holder," she snapped. "I have Mr. Branson listed as the primary, actually," the rep replied. I walked into the kitchen just as she ended the call, her phone slammed face down on the island. She turned to me, pale. "Did you change the bank settings?" she asked, eyes sharp. I tilted my head, pretending to think. "No," I said. "Why?" "Because they're saying I don't have access anymore. Everything's frozen. Even my cards." "Maybe you should check your emails," I said calmly. "There might be something there." She blinked, then walked past me, muttering under her breath. I went to work as usual that day. When I came home, she was on the couch, laptop open, surrounded by a dozen post-it notes and papers. She had her phone on speaker, holding it between her shoulder and ear. "I'm telling you, this is a mistake. My accounts are connected to our mortgage. I need access." A pause. "No, I don't have that authorization code." What do you mean a legal block?" "A legal block from who?" I poured myself a drink in the kitchen, then leaned in the doorway. She hung up hard, eyes darting. "What's going on?" I asked, voice even. I don't know, she said, and for the first time there was real fear in her voice. Everything's just stopped. I can't log into anything. My company emails won't open. The shared drive is gone. My team said I was removed from the cloud folder and the group chat. Tyler, what is happening? I took a long sip. You tell me, I said, then turned and walked upstairs. That was when the mood in the house shifted. She stopped talking about her day. She stopped playing music in the kitchen. She spent hours on the phone, pacing from room to room. I heard names, managers, friends, IT reps. Everyone was either clueless or looking into it. But by now, the legal notices had landed in her inbox. They had been carefully worded, formal notification of pending divorce. Listing grounds. Attaching digital evidence. Motion to separate assets, full accounting attached. Timestamped. Verified. The email subject line, notice of initiation of legal proceedings. It arrived at 10:04 a.m. Tuesday. At 10:06, I got a text from her, we need to talk. Please. I didn't respond. That night, I found her sitting on the floor of our bedroom surrounded by a half-packed suitcase. She looked up at me with wide, glassy eyes. I don't understand, she said. I said nothing. She held up her phone, the screen facing me. Is this real? These documents? These photos? How did you get them? I didn't move. They said you hired a firm, she whispered. That you froze everything. That I'm being removed from Tyler, why didn't you say anything? Still, I didn't speak. I just walked past her, into the closet, and pulled out a small wooden box. She froze. She recognized it instantly. It was the one I'd given her for our 5th anniversary. I'd carved her initials into the lid. Inside, I'd once kept letters, memories, moments, little keepsakes of our life together. Now, I handed it to her without a word. She opened it slowly. The flash drive was on top. Underneath, photos. Screensh** TS. Statements. Evidence. And at the very bottom, a letter handwritten in ink. Not dramatic. Not angry. Just final. I watched her read it line by line, her hands trembling. When she looked up at me, something had shifted. Her bravado was gone. Her mask had cracked. I didn't think you'd do this, she said quietly. That was your first mistake, I replied. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Looked down again at the contents of the box. This is everything, she whispered. No, I said. It's just the beginning. She didn't speak for a long time. Eventually, she closed the lid and stood up, cradling the box like it was something fragile. I don't know what to say. I stepped back, arms folded. You don't have to say anything. That's the point. For the next few days, she moved through the house like someone underwater. Everything was slower. Her conversations quieter. Her wardrobe suddenly reverted. No more bold lipstick, no more tailored blazers. Just old sweatshirts and jeans, like she was trying to rewind herself into a version I might still forgive. But it was too late for that. I watched her put on songs from our early years. I watched her make breakfast she hadn't cooked in months. She sat on the couch in silence while our wedding video played in the background. She thought sentimentality could fix what betrayal had torn. She didn't realize the moment she picked up that phone and heard me instead of Daniel, her world had already started dissolving. And now? Now she was standing in the ruins. No one had yelled. No dishes were broken. No public scene had played out. But the message had landed harder than any explosion. She wasn't just losing me. She was losing everything she'd built on a lie. It happened on a Thursday morning. Claire was packing for what she claimed would be one last business trip. Her movements were sluggish, her suitcase half filled with mismatched clothes. She wasn't wearing makeup. She hadn't in days. The sharpness she used to carry in her posture, in her voice, it was gone, replaced by something that looked a lot like shame. While pulling a jacket from the back of the closet, she found it. The wooden box. Right where I'd placed it, on purpose. She paused, just staring at it like it had no business being there. Then she sat down on the floor and opened it again, even though she already knew what was inside. The photos were back. Reordered, sharper somehow now that the fog had lifted. The flash drive was there too, along with a new note, short, handwritten. It didn't accuse. Didn't beg. It simply said, "You vanished from our life long before I vanished from yours. This is the truth you built in the shadows. Now face it in the light." I watched her read it from the hallway. I didn't hide. I just stood there, watching her absorb it, then slowly close the lid. She left the suitcase untouched after that. Instead, she walked downstairs and made coffee like it was a normal day. She even played a song from our 1st anniversary on her phone. I think she hoped it would unlock something. Memory. Regret. Maybe a sliver of sympathy. But my expression never changed. The legal filings had already reached her inbox. Her name was already being unlinked from the property. The accounts had moved, the papers filed, the plan finalized. There was nothing left to say. She was still in the house, but every part of her was already gone. The morning she left, the house was silent. She didn't scream. Didn't cry. Not anymore. She just stood in the entryway with a suitcase in one hand, her phone in the other. The keys to the house set neatly on the counter. Her eyes met mine for a long second. And for the first time since this all began, she didn't try to speak. She knew there were no words left that could undo what had been done. She turned and opened the door, stepping outside without looking back. I waited until I heard the distant sound of her car pulling away before I moved. I closed the door behind her. No hesitation. No goodbye. Then I straightened the pillows on the couch, threw out the half-used perfume bottles, opened every window upstairs and let the air flow through the rooms we used to share. That night, I didn't set an alarm. Didn't need one. There was no job to wake up for. No fake plans to ask about. No stories to pretend to believe. For the first time in years, I slept without the weight of suspicion. There was no grief. Only stillness. And freedom.